Hi, everyone, and welcome. Here we are with another Sunday, and I hope everyone is adjusting as well as they can to what we're going to face. But again, welcome to another church service in our beloved congregation. We are here together. Let us now arrive consciously. Take a moment to breathe, to center, to allow our minds to stop racing. Lay aside concerns that have to do with other times and places. Let us be fully present.
Good morning. Now you can see me. Good morning. Many people reached out to me last week and said that they enjoyed singing the hymns along at home, so we are going to continue that. Our opening hymn is number 298, Wake Now My Senses, and we'll sing verses 1 and 3. Follow along with the words and sing as you like.
Principles to live by. Our first and seventh principle. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. For our joys and sorrows, I'd like to drop our first stone. For everyone in the world, we're truly all in this together, aren't we? Another stone for all the members of this congregation that we meet virtually now. It's still odd to be in this empty sanctuary with none of you here. but we're together. I did not receive any joys and sorrows on my email, and I encourage you to do that if you wish, and I will repeat them. But I'll repeat something from Joys and Sorrows, from the Pastoral Care Committee, that if you need any help, any care, please contact the members of the Pastoral Care Committee or contact me. Even though we live in our own separate rooms, we're still connected one to the other. And so please, if you need something, maybe toilet paper, but if you need something, just let us know. And now the last stone. May the coming weeks be somewhat joyful and productive. And read a good book. Listen to some good music. May it all be so for all of us. Blessed be. Whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do the good work of this congregation. The offering will now be received online. And we're going to have the site, and it's the PayPal site, and it's going to be on the screen while David plays the offertory. So if you wish to do so, you can. Please join me in a moment of meditation to be followed by silence. This is our church, and this is our sanctuary, if we make it so. This can be a place of healing, a place we all need, for it is safe to assume that each is carrying a burden, a hurt of body, mind, or soul, an aching back or a broken heart, a hidden illness or a problem too hard to talk about, a lost puppy or a lost love or a lost job, or simply being at lost. Even the strong who smile and bear life with courage and conviction are vulnerable and hurt like the rest of us. Let us be more loving and understanding than surface smiles indicate. For each of us carries a burden. This can only be a place of healing if we make it so. Let this be a place of acceptance. Each of us stands in need of forgiveness for things we have done or things we have left undone. In a sanctuary, you can find acceptance, whoever you are and whatever you have done, if you turn and rest in that acceptance. Let us make that possible by being open to greater possibilities in each person. This can be a place of acceptance if we make it so. There are joys we share. Let this be a place of shared joy. Joy is what we most want to hear about. Let us rejoice in the good news each brings. A new job or new child or new recognition, or reaching another year of life or marriage or an anniversary of any sort. Rejoice without envy. Rejoice without forgetting the burdens we carry and the need we have for the acceptance and love of one another. In that way, we can build hope and bring hope, not only for ourselves, but for the world outside these walls. For if we do not have a sanctuary here, all our words about a better someplace else for someone else is shallow, sound and fury, signifying amassed nothingness. This is our church. It can be a sanctuary if we make it so. Let us make it so. Even if we live in our own separate rooms now, let's make it so. Do you know where your inner child is? In pop psychology, there is something called the inner child. The innocent little critter wasn't taken very good care of by its parents. It didn't receive enough love or attention, or too much of the wrong kind of love and attention. One thing almost every inner child has in common is that it was surely abused. Because it was weak and powerless, the poor creature got all confused about things. It grew up unable to cope with life, or love, or liquor, or relationships, or work, or happiness, or crowds, or success, and so on. As the crowning achievement of making victimhood fashionable, the inner child continued capacity is testimony that whatever is wrong with us is someone else's fault. The main problem with parents is that they tend to be human. They make mistakes, sometimes terrible mistakes. But even when they don't, it doesn't require much effort for their grown children to isolate any number of little crimes that add up to a psychological felony. Figuring out how to blame our parents for our own failures is about as difficult as shooting fish in a barrel. This said, there is surely a connection with how we think and cope and behave with the way we were raised. At one level, every grown-up is the adult child of a sometimes childish adult. It helps to understand this, to sort it out, to unpack our resentments and recognize their sources. It helps to learn to isolate and address unhealthy patterns. This is healthy, but not if we take it too far. not if we are tempted to cultivate victimhood as one's self-image, wallowing from one self-help book or workshop to another, beguiled by the rhetoric of codependency, locked in resentment, sharing only pain. As originally coined, the idea of codependency is useful. We can become passive accomplices to active abuse, trapped in patterns of behavior that diminish both of us and those closest to us. Sometimes, with the best of intentions, we get so tangled up in another's thicket that neither of us can get out. But there is a problem with this terminology. In a larger sense, codependency is descriptive of the human condition. The noble term for this is interdependence. That simply means that all of us, by virtue of family ties or some other form of proximity, are codependent on one another. During this crisis, we are codependent on each other for our health. We are codependent on one another for love and support, for comfort and human warmth, for all that is good as well as all that is bad between us. One danger is our fear of other people. We fear they're having a harmful impact upon our own freedom and happiness. We first set up exaggerated and unrealistic models for what a healthy relationship should be. Then we hold ourselves apart from others, not give our hearts away lest they be broken, not risk the pain that comes with every form of human companionship. As the English poet John Donne wrote, and beware, I'm going to use inclusive language, no one is an island entire of itself. Every one of us is part of the continent, part of the main. Not only do we depend on one another, but in a religious sense, we are actually part of one another at some profound level. All true joy is shared joy. All true pain, shared pain. Therefore, in the time remaining to me, I would like to address the dangers of one solution to the problem of codependency. This solution comes with a noble pedigree out of our own religious tradition. Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay, Self-Reliance. However, I should warn you that Emerson's compass is far broader than mine is this morning. Emerson's essay is a call to 19th century Americans to wake up, to think and act, and create for themselves, to throw off the tired, derivative, and dusty reliance on European arts and letters and faith, to see the world anew with new eyes, to, and I quote Emerson, to learn to detect and watch that gleam of light which flashes across our minds from within, more than the luster of the firmament of bards and sages. Did you catch that? It's part of Emerson's turning Christology upside down and what Jesus really preached, which was, it's all within. You don't need a priest. You don't need a church. But anyway, I digress. Now, this is a fine piece of writing, an eloquent appeal to original thought and endeavor. Yet between the lines, Emerson calls for redemption through estrangement. I quote again, and it's lengthy. Society everywhere is a conspiracy against the humanity of every one of its members. I shun father and mother and wife and husband and brother and sister when my genius calls me. Do not tell me, as a good man did today, of my obligation to put all poor people in good situations. Are they my poor? Question mark. Honor, he writes later in the essay, is self-dependent, self-derived. When good is near you, when you have life in yourself, it is not by any known or accustomed way. You shall not discern the footprints of any other. You shall not see the face of humanity. You shall not hear any name. Fear and hope are alike beneath it. The soul raised over passion beholds identity and eternal causation, perceives the self-existence of truth and right, and claims and calms itself with knowing that all things go well. End of quote. Now, these are beautiful words, but they lead directly to Emerson's most chilling point. Again, I quote, "Why should we assume the faults of our friends, or wife, or father, or child, because they sit around our hearth, or are said to have the same blood? Not for that will I adopt their petulance or folly, even to the extent of being ashamed of it. Friend, client, child, sickness, fear, want, charity, all knock at once at thy closet door and say, 'Come out unto us.' But keep thy state. Come not into their confusion. No one can come near me, but through my act." Well, so much for codependency. Welcome to counterdependency, the perfect answer to every codependent estrangement and complaint. Emerson puts it this way: discontent is the want of self-reliance. It is infirmity of will. Our sympathy is just as base. We come to them who weep foolishly and sit down and cry for company, instead of imparting to them truth and health in rough electric shocks, putting them once more in communication with their own reason. And the transcendentalists, the word reason in our language would equal soul. This may be the first proclamation of tough love. After all, Ralph Waldo Emerson left the ministry to become one of the first self-help writers. And what he had to say is helpful. Don't coddle another's weaknesses. Find a way to aid others that will not feed their own weaknesses, but add to their strengths. I have no problem with that. My problem is with Emerson's conclusion. Nothing can bring you peace but yourself. Let me repeat that. Nothing can bring you peace but yourself. This is very American, quite Unitarian, very male, and immensely troubling. Self-reliance based on the gospel of sovereign individualism may offer a perfect cure for codependency. It may even liberate the inner child from all its shackles. But it also estranges us from the ground of our shared being, a ground that is watered by tears, tears which help us grow in forgiveness, mutual understanding, and love. To an extent, we can choose. We can choose to be a part of or apart from the human race. Despite Emerson's confidence, though we may try to free ourselves from everything which limits us and sometimes drags us down, this can only be done at the expense of our humanity. Thomas Merton, a Catholic monk and mystic, reverses Emerson's frame. He links self-help with help to others. He puts our failures and successes in a larger perspective, one not of blame, but of the natural imperfections of human community. Merton writes, it is of supreme importance that we consent to live not for ourselves, but for others. When we do this, we will be able, first of all, to face and accept our own limitations. As long as we secretly adore ourselves, our own deficiencies will remain to torture us with an apparent defilement. But if we live for others, we will gradually discover that no one expects us to be as God. Sorry. We will see that we are human, like everyone else, that we all have weaknesses and deficiencies, and that these limitations of ours play an important part in our lives. It is because of them that we need others, and others need us. Only when we see ourselves in our true human context, as members of a race which is intended to be one organism and one body, we'll begin to understand the positive importance not only of the successes, but of the failures and accidents in our lives. My successes are not my own. The way to them was prepared by others. The fruit of my labors is not my own, for I'm preparing the way for the achievements of another. Nor are my failures my own. They may spring from the failure of another, but they are also compensated for by another's achievement. May we have the wisdom and compassion to seek the ground of our shared being, a ground that is watered by tears which help us grow in forgiveness, mutual understanding, and love. For no person is an island unto themselves, but instead a part of the human race. Blessed be. Amen.
Our closing hymn is going to be hymn number 1021, Lean on Me, a song that I think many people out listening know well. We're going to do the first two verses. Here we go. Sing along.
Our closing words are from St. Francis of Assisi. Where hate rules, let us bring love. Where sorrow, joy. Let us strive more to comfort others than to be comforted, to understand others than to be understood, to love others more than to be loved. For it is in the giving that we receive, and in pardoning that we are pardoned.
I've been working on a piece at home based on the famous melody Simple Gifts. And I think during this time and age, we have to be aware of the simple gifts, no matter how difficult times may be around us. And so here's a piece that I wrote based on simple gifts. I hope you enjoy it.